Last weekend proved that anything is possible in the ANZ Championship as the defending champions, the Magic, pulled out all stops to defeat the Queensland Firebirds in an extra time thriller. The Central Pulse held their nerve to defeat the West Coast Fever by a goal, all but ending the Fever's finals hopes. But there's still plenty of netball to be played as I welcome you to Centre Pass, the official video podcast of the ANZ Championship. Dan Ryan here alongside former Australian skipper Kath Harby-Williams. And Catherine, how about the Magic? The big news of the week. Backs against the wall, step up and deliver.
We shouldn't be surprised. Last year they lost 4 in a row and then won 14 in a row to go on and win the championship. So here come the Magic, I think. Noeline Taurua, the wily Noeline Taurua, told them during the week that this was it for her final season with the Magic. She's been with those girls, particularly Kopua, Langman, Van Dyke, for many, many years, even before the ANZ Championship began. So I think they decided that this year they're going to do it for her, and it all started on the weekend. And, you know, they're looking sharp. The only thing against them, Dan, is they make the top 4. It's highly likely to be in 4th position. It's pretty tough going to get through the grand final, win it. But I guess if anyone can, Magic can.
That's right. They did finish 3rd last year too and make it all the way through. So they've done it before. Can they do it again? Doing their best to keep that dreaded premiership curse away as well. Let's recap all of the scores from round 10 of the ANZ Championship. The New South Wales Swifts claimed just their 2nd win of the season with a 19-goal win over an injury-depleted Northern Mystics. The Magic proved, as we just mentioned, that where there's life, there's hope with a thrilling 3-goal win in extra time against the Firebirds on the Gold Coast. The Pulse closed out another close one, keeping their undefeated streak at home intact, getting over the Fever 53-52. The Thunderbirds were far from convincing with a 4-goal win over the Tactics. They got the 2 points though, 62-58. And the Melbourne Vixens held off a persistent Southern Steel outfit to return to the winners list, taking a 58-52 goal win on Monday night. As we take a look at the competition ladder as it stands after 10 rounds, the Thunderbirds still on top, the Vixens back into 2nd, and the Magic back into the top 4. Catherine, pretty tight in those top 4 places. Fever probably now gone for the season.
Yes, I think so. They had to win that game against the Pulse and got so close yet so far. So what happens now, Dan, is the Thunderbirds, their aim will be to finish top. They never have before. Even when they won the premiership, they finished 2nd. The Vixens and Firebirds, they'll want that double chance, and that is extremely vital. So that's what they're vying for, and obviously Magic and Steel and Pulse for that 4th position. But with that massive win by the Magic on the weekend, you've got to say they took a major step forward to playing finals netball again this year.
Absolutely. Time now to turn our attention to round 11 of the competition. 4 rounds coming to you this weekend. Of course, the West Coast Fever and the Northern Mystics having the bye in round 11. It starts on Sunday in Sydney. A massive game for many reasons. The New South Wales Swifts, nothing to lose anymore. They're out of the race for the final, so playing for pride for that team against the top of the table Adelaide Thunderbirds. These two sides Harbs met a couple of weeks ago. It was a 2-goal win to the New South Wales Swifts, but a massive danger game for the Adelaide Thunderbirds. Yeah,
well, that win by the Thunderbirds was at home, so now they're away. This game is being played for the first time at All Phones Arena, so they're hoping for a record crowd of 7,000. I think there are a few things that suggest danger signs for the Thunderbirds. McCloma is actually back in form, and we all know that Borrego is such a key for the side. The travel that the Thunderbirds have undertaken, it took them 5 days almost to get to Dunedin and back, and didn't arrive back in Adelaide till Wednesday. So that's another option. The amount of errors that a top side like the Thunderbirds are making, that's against them as well. And you talk about the Swifts, nothing to play for, but they're playing for contracts, not just pride, but contracts, and Lisa Behag's playing for her coaching contract. So all those things suggest that it's going to be a really tough game for the Thunderbirds. But in saying that, the Thunderbirds want that top spot, and I think that urgency and the fact that they were so poor against the Tactics last week will get them over the line.
The Swifts were very good against the Thunderbirds when they last met. They dominated the Northern Mystics, an injury-depleted Northern Mystics, but was it a good performance from the Swifts to indicate that they're in much better form than what they were, say, 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Yeah, well, I actually commentated on that game, Dan, and I actually said they looked like a team that could play finals, so that gives you an indication. Yes, they were playing an undermanned Mystics side, but they were doing enough to show they had enough players in form to do well. I'm not sure where Moni Gerard is with her calf injury. She didn't play, so if she comes into lineup, she actually had a pretty good game against the Thunderbirds the week before. So, you know, it's a danger game, but I guess it's a test for the Thunderbirds. If they win this one, they're on their way to be a good show in the finals. If they don't, you know, they're almost on a downward slide, and that's not the way you want to be going when finals netball's upon us.
Huge game, that one in Sydney. The New South Wales Swifts up against the Adelaide Thunderbirds. Speaking of huge games, the Queensland Firebirds up against the Melbourne Vixens. These two teams met, of course, in round 9 as well. It was an 11-goal win to the Firebirds. That game without Laura Geitz, the team buoyed by emotion in that one. The Firebirds coming off a 3-goal loss to the Magic, as we know. know. The Vixens a 6-goal win against the Southern Steel. The winner here, Kath, will claim outright second and give themselves the chance to claim top spot, pending results what the Thunderbirds do.
Yeah, and let's not underestimate, yes, it would be great to have top spot and get a home final, but at least if you finish in the top 2 you can get a home grand final, and that's key. So this is a massive game. The Firebirds keep playing in massive games. This is the hardest game to tip for the round. I just think the Firebirds are a little bit vulnerable defensively. They were quite good against the Magic despite the fact they lost, but there were a few times when the ball was moving through court all the way down without much defensive pressure, and they really need to do that against the Vixens this weekend, because the likes of Madison Brown and Tegan Caldwell, who's in sensational form, they'll just carve them up. So that's the area that the Firebirds really need to tighten up.
Sherelle McMahon's an interesting one. Obviously a lot of talk about Sherelle in the pre-season as to what kind of a role she would play with the Melbourne Vixens. She probably hasn't seen a lot of court time what fans and netball people would have expected. Didn't play at all against the Southern Steel. They ran with Howarth and Caldwell. Previously they've been rotating that line. Where's she sitting at the moment? What's the form like? What are the Vixens doing with that group, do you think?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Caldwell was so good, you couldn't bring McMahon on. You can't just bring someone on because of reputation or you want to give them court time. When you're playing for a top 2 spot in a finals position, you've got to run with what's going so well. So you can understand McInnes doing that. But it's a tough one for McInnes because she's very close to McMahon, and it'll be tough for McMahon because she's used to being the superstar. But I think she's got a role to play. What that is, I'm not sure. To me, at this stage of the season, it seems like she'll be an impact player. I'm not sure that she's got enough fitness to get her through an entire game. So, at the moment it's Caldwell and Howarth with McMahon coming on when needed, and she's probably the perfect player to come on in an urgent situation. So, not the ideal situation for her, but she's been around long enough to know that Caldwell's in great form. As much as she'd hate sitting on the bench, she could understand the call by McInnes.
The last time when the teams met, the 11-goal win to the Firebirds was without Laura Geitz. Does that play at all on the coach's mind to put that lineup that did the job last time? The captain goes straight back in.
No, not after her performance against the Magic. She was pretty solid, and that win by the Firebirds was really special. It was quite an emotional game for them. They did it for Laura, but she's come back in, and she needs netball at the moment. It's something to keep in mind of things in her family situation, and she coped with it very well last weekend. And she's a sensational leader, and she just brings more than just her court play to the team. So she'll certainly be out there and in good form.
No doubt the Queenslanders will be right behind the Firebirds as they host the Melbourne Vixens on Sunday. Another huge game again on Sunday afternoon in New Zealand. In Rotorua, it will be the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic, the defending champions, up against arguably the dark horse of the competition to make finals, the Southern Steel. This is a huge one too. They did meet a couple of weeks ago as well. It was a 13-goal win to the Southern Steel, but the form of the Magic since then has been vastly improved. This is game on between these two sides.
It is. Let's see what the Steel are made of. And yet, you're right, the Magic are a different team. Their game against the Firebirds, I think, is the platform from which they're going to build for the rest of the season. We all talk about Fowler and how she's so dominant, but the one thing I'd like to see from the Steel, if they're to win against these tougher sides, is Jodie Brown's a terrific feeder, so they've got that game plan. But when Fowler's getting held as much as you can hold Fowler, Brown needs to come into the circle and start putting up some shots just to take the pressure off. But that changes their whole structure because they're so used to her being the dominant feeder. So that's an area they need to address, because in the tight ones, unless that happens, they're not going to win.
Really is a game between the two goal attacks, Brown for the Steel and Halpenny for the Magic.
Halpenny's amazing. Under pressure the other day, at the end of the third quarter, you thought maybe she should be taken off, but when the pressure was on, she really stood up, outscored Van Dyke for about the third time this season, and that just doesn't happen. So they've changed their structure to some degree. So I guess the pressure is on Halpenny. She showed that she can cope under pressure, but she'll need to continue to do that week in, week out, and that's often a challenge for these players who are coming through the system.
The final game of the round is on Monday night in Christchurch. It is the Canterbury Tactics hosting the Central Pulse. Just quickly on this one, Harbs, it's basically a must-win game for the Central Pulse. They win, they keep the finals hopes alive. They lose, that could be it.
Yeah, look, and that's what it will boil down to. There are two ways that the Pulse will go about this. One is to get the 2 points. The other one is to get the percentage, because just a win probably won't be enough for them by the end of the season. But they need to get the lead first before they then push on. So that will give the Tactics some hope, because at some stage I expect the Pulse will go long and let go of the ball quickly. But I just think the likes of Leota and Wilkins will be too strong for the defensive game of the Tactics. But at the other end, Sophia Fenwick really stood up. We talk about Harton often, but she really carried the load against the Thunderbirds last week. So she's in good form. So I expect the Pulse to be too good.
Speaking of being too good, I am winning the tipping competition by 3, Kath. I lead by 3, it's 36 to 33. That's right, I'm having a good time here. I now just take you through my tips for round 11 of the competition. I'm backing the Adelaide Thunderbirds to knock off the Swifts in a tight one in Sydney. The Firebirds just to beat the Vixens based on home court advantage. That should be a cracker. The Magic to win at home against the Steel. But flip a coin there. I'm backing the defending champions and the Central Pulse to stay in touch with the top 4 with a comfortable win over the Tactics Hubs. Take us through your tips.
Yep. Thunderbirds over the Swiss, playing for that top spot. They'll be too strong. This is the one I was going to tip the Firebirds, but since you have, Dan, and I did have difficulty in terms of deciding who was going to win, the Vixens just in that one. I don't know why. The Magic over the Steel, and as you said, the Pulse too strong for the Tactics.
Certainly looking forward to a big round of netball, round 11 of the ANZ Championship. Catherine, thank you for all your insights on today's show. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Make sure you check out the ANZ Champs website for all of the broadcast details for round 11. Until next week, goodbye for now.